Go to school, get a good job, save up all your money inside your 401k, and then pay off your home as early as possible. Does that sound familiar? What if I told you this exact advice is what's keeping you broke? You see, these are the exact money lies that most of us are taught as kids, and they're the reason why the middle class is stuck. My name is Devin Burr. In this video today, I'm going to expose to you the 5 biggest lies about money and how the wealthy think about money. That way you can flip the script and finally build real wealth. Before we dive into it, make sure to subscribe to my channel. On this channel, I talk about the real strategies the wealthy use to grow and multiply money. The things that Wall Street and the banks do not want you to know about. So let's jump into it. Lie number 1 is to go to school, get good grades, and get a good job. Don't get me wrong. Education is important, but formal education teaches you how to be a good employee, not how to create wealth. And that's why you can have a doctor that earns 400 grand a year and is still paycheck to paycheck. The key point here is that schools do not teach financial literacy. They teach obedience and they teach memorization. Example would be like, I know people that have an MBA that don't understand how compound interest works, or how to not drown in student loan debt. Now, the thing is, the wealthy, what they do is they focus on how money works. They study how money works. They don't just go to earn more money. Lie number 2 is to save your money in the bank. You've been taught to have a rainy day fund. Put money in the bank just in case. A safety net. It's the worst thing you can do. That is basically losing money. If you save money, you're losing money because of inflation. Every year, because of inflation, your dollar buys less and less and less. It takes more dollars to buy the same thing as it did last year. That's inflation. The key point here is that banks, they don't save money. You've been taught to save money, but banks don't. No company does. What companies and banks do is they move money. They're always deploying it. They're keeping it moving. It's called the velocity of money. So think about it. A bank, you put your money on deposit, they take it and lend it to someone else for more than what they're paying you. They pay you pennies to hold your money at the bank. You don't even come close to keeping up with inflation. They then take that money and lend it and lend it and lend it as many times as possible to make as much profit as possible. Now, a better strategy, what the wealthy do, is they store their money in assets that grow and assets that pay them back tax-free. Because as assets grow, you can borrow against those assets. You can borrow the appreciation. Borrowing is not taxed. These assets would include things like businesses, like real estate, even your own private banking system. So think about this. What if instead of using a bank, you could be the bank? There'd probably be some benefits in that, right? Stick around. I'm going to explain what I mean in a minute. Lie number 3 is that your home is your biggest asset, your primary home, and you should pay it off as quick as possible so you have it free and clear. It's probably the worst thing that you could do with your home, and your home is not an asset. Your primary home is a liability. A liability takes money out of your pocket. An asset puts money in your pocket. So think about your primary home. You have a mortgage payment, you got taxes, you got insurance, you've got upkeep, you've got upgrades that you do to the house. It's taking a lot of money out of your pocket. The only time it could ever really put money in your pocket is if you go to sell it and you've got equity. Or if you take an equity line of credit, which there is a benefit to that, but it is not an asset. You could turn it into an asset by renting some rooms and things like that. But as it sits, if you just are living in your primary home, paying your mortgage payment, and it's not bringing you in any money, it is not an asset. And to pay it off sooner makes no sense because most people, unless they refinanced in the last few years, have a really low interest rate. I have a 2.875 on my house. Why would I ever pay extra on that when I could take the money and go make way more than 2.875% interest? So the wealthy, what they do is they buy income producing assets. So think of a home as a way to, it could be a liability or it can be an asset. Wealthy people go buy rental homes. So think of a home, if it's got a mortgage payment of $1,000 to keep math easy, and you can rent it for $500. The renter is paying your $1,000 mortgage payment. The difference of $500 is your profit. That's money that's coming into your pockets from the asset. So that's what wealthy people do. They buy properties that produce income. They don't just live in their assets. We are almost to the end. We're at lie number 4. This is something that I fully bought into before I understood how money worked, and that is to max out your 401k. Get as much money into that thing as possible. Let it sit and have a big, great retirement in your golden years. Guys, basically what you're doing with a 401k is you're giving up control of your money until 59 and a half. You cannot touch the money without penalty until you're 59 and a half. So think about this. Money is worth the most today. It'll never be worth more than it is today. So you're giving up of control of that money when it's worth the most to have access to it later when it's gonna be worth less because of inflation. That doesn't make sense. You're also not paying taxes now when taxes are probably as low as they'll ever be. Would we all agree that taxes go up, they don't go down? So you're not paying taxes now to pay them later when they're probably gonna be higher. You're not paying taxes on the seed to pay taxes on the harvest. Doesn't make sense. You're also not taxed correctly. See, money in a 401k is in the stock market. If you make a gain, a profit, you should be taxed at capital gains rates. It should be long-term capital gains rates. However, when you are taxed on your 401k, when you're 59 and a half and you start withdrawing that money, you're taxed at ordinary income rates, which is a higher rate. So you pay more taxes, you pay it on a harvest instead of a seed, you pay probably a higher rate because there's more taxes in the future than there are right now, and you give up control of the money when it's worth the most to have access to it later when it's going to be worth less. It doesn't make sense. It's the worst thing you could do with your money. Now, here's the thing, guys. What wealthy people do is they do not give up control of money. They understand that the more control that they have, the less risk they have. If you give up control of your money, it's at the most risk. And that's why most people, when they retire with a 401k, they only have about $300,000 on average. You can't live the rest of your life on 300 grand. You just can't do it. So why is that? Because there was a lot of risk. There's times where the market drops like crazy. If you lose 50%, you have to earn 100% just to get back to where you started. Think about it. If you got $1,000 and you lose 50%, you have $500. Just to get back to 1,000, you have to earn $500. That's 100% return. That's very, very difficult. So, guys, what wealthy people do is they don't give up control of their money. They always have control of it, so they have less risk. That's what you want to start doing, is have total, unhindered control. That's why I talk so much about whole life insurance, properly structured whole life insurance, because you have 100% unhindered control of your money. Lie number 5 is pay off all of your debt as quickly as possible. Become debt free. Debt is not bad, okay? Bad debt is bad. But there is good debt, debt that pays you. If you can borrow at 5, that's debt, but you can take that borrowed money and make 20. You just made a 15% spread using somebody else's money. That's what debt is. You owe somebody money. So if you can borrow at 5, that is your cost to control their money. All you got to do is go take it and make more than what it cost you. Now it's an asset. You've actually turned debt into an asset. Remember, an asset is something that brings money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. So if you can borrow at 5 and make 20, you have turned that debt into an asset. And that is what wealthy people do. They don't focus on just paying debt off. They focus on, how can I leverage debt? How can I leverage equity in my stock portfolio, in my property, in my group of properties? You can actually have a bunch of properties grouped together and get a whole bunch of equity based on the entire portfolio of properties. Crazy. That's what wealthy people do. They figure out how they can leverage debt to go make more money. So everything you've been taught about money is a lie. It's a lie to make it to where you play it safe, to where you play small and have security. Think about this, guys. When you get a job, it's because you want security. You want a secure paycheck. You want to know you're going to have something coming in every 2 weeks or whatever it is. Security is what you're after. What do you call maximum security? That's prison, guys. When you are in the system, you're a prisoner. You have security. What you are now is you are trapped. Wealthy people, they aren't trapped. They aren't trapped to a time clock. They aren't trapped to a destination. They aren't trapped to a certain set of people. Wealthy people get to do what they want, when they want, with who they want. If you're tired of being trapped in the system, guys, I've made a free training. I've put a link in the description where I go over exactly why I put in almost $1 million a year into properly structured whole life insurance to build a banking system so I don't have to actually give up control to anybody. I'm in full control. If you want to learn how that works, check out the link in the description. And if you like this video, you're going to love that one. Until next time, love all you guys.